So over the holidays and beginning of this year, I had a couple of students that had exactly the same problem. And the problem was that they were overwhelmed by the amount of information that exists in the internet, and also how contradictory things can sound and look when one animator says something and actually be incredibly confused about how to actually do your like you need to find a concise way of getting your information that is clear, precise, and doesn't confuse you in the long run, and allows you to basically continue to move forward at a constant pace without having that feeling of taking a step forward and then 2 steps back, right? So I hope that sounds as interesting to you as it is to me at this point in time. So let's get to it. Hey guys, how's it going? For those that are new to this channel, welcome, first and foremost. Happy 2023 once again, and my name is Harvey Newman, and I like to share my passion for animation here in this channel with all of you. Now, I have had this kind of question thrown at me many times by many students over the years, but I think that this idea of being confused by all the information that is out there is starting to become more and more of a problem. That's what I found, and because of this, I feel like I needed to make this video. So I started reading this book called Game Feel by Steve Swink. Really cool book, but it's basically a design book, right? It's a game designer's guide to virtual sensation, which is basically about game feel. And I'm really curious about this because most of my career has been about like chasing the feel of a game. Animation has a lot to do with the feel of the game. I believe is the department that has the most to do with the feel of a game. I think that this book is going to be super useful because it's made by very talented people, very experienced people, and I highly recommend you guys go get it because I'm really enjoying the read right now. So all this to say that you can actually get the most value for your knowledge by reading a book. This is most likely not news to any of you, but what happens with most people on the internet right now, especially young animators that are out there, is that there's this false sense that if you watch videos back to back and if you watch so many different sources of information, that you eventually don't need books and you can learn everything from just watching people showing you what to do by watching tutorials, right? And I felt that even back in the day when I started, because when Jason Ryan was the very first one that did it, and also Keith Lango, shout out to both of them, great people. Both of them started doing this video tutorials for animators, and that was very early on, early 2000s, when the infrastructure of the internet was not like this, and there was no YouTubing and there was no Vimeo, none of that stuff. So for me, it felt much easier for me to actually look at somebody doing the work that I need to do, basically pause the video, do what they are doing, and basically just copy their workflow one-to-one as I was learning. Now, don't get me wrong, that is incredibly valuable, so I'm not saying that it's not valuable, because this is what this channel is about, 100%. Seeing is believing, so continue doing that. What I'm trying to say is that you just doing that and ignoring books that actually teach you how to do certain things is a big mistake, right? So in books, what you can find, and this goes for any animation books out there, it doesn't matter if it's actually the Animation Survival Kit or any other books that you find out there, you can find in one piece of content, a book, all the information that you need for your animation skills. Doesn't matter if it's acting or walk cycles or whatever it is, you actually find all the information in one sitting in one book. And that allows, at least for me, makes me feel very much like I can focus on this one book for a certain period of time and then ingest all the information and then find out how useful that information is to me. So I remember perfectly when I first read the Animator Survival Kit, I was very much amazed at first read by the stories that Richard Williams was actually writing about and how he saw the Nine Old Men. This is the very first time, like probably many of you, I started respecting the Nine Old Men, the work that Walt Disney did, and all of that goodness. So for me, it was very much about the story of things, right? Even though there's many drawings, but as a young animator, it's very difficult to ingest all the information at once. Now, on a second reading that I did, for me, it was very much about copying whatever Richard Williams was doing on the Animation Survival Kit, because he was talking about timing and spacing and certain cadence and personality and acting, and all of those things were very new to me. Like to me, kind of like it was all alien, right? So for me, it was all about understanding what he was trying to say in the book. And only by the third reading, I could actually understand what he was saying and then make something out of it for myself, for my animation as an animator, right? So you start to see that with just one book, the Animator Survival Kit, which you absolutely need to get if you're an animator, then 100% you can just rely on that book to learn the animation skills, at least the very basic animation skills that you need in order to succeed. Now, you can complement that with animation videos, animation channels like this one, because we give you extra information and tips and tricks like I try to give in this channel for professionals and junior animators, and tips that allow you to see things perhaps with a different light. But when it comes to animation, at the very least, the basics, the 12 principles, the how you start is the same for everybody, right? And you need to grasp those really well, because they become like tools for you that you can then use for your creativity at a later point. But if you don't learn those things at first really well and practice for a long period of time, it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed as an animator. And I think the confusion here, for at least the people that I talk to, my students, comes from starting too early without reading any books, researching and watching your online tutorials and watching all these things. Because what happens with time is that a lot of professional animators, including myself, we start to tweak our workflow to fit our personal style, right? So we pick up on those 12 principles, and now we're working on a computer. And then we actually have plugins. And then we also have certain exterior peripherals or something that aids you in your animation. And all those things basically fit me. And then because they fit me, I believe that they might fit other people. So I show it to other people on how I work, and hopefully it suits their style. But if you are a very junior animator and you're starting to look at how I work, or anybody else that is experienced, you might find yourself in a situation where not only animation is confusing, but now this method or work style is very confusing as well. Or perhaps it makes sense to you and somebody else is showing you something else. And now you're actually pointing fingers about who's right and who is wrong. So before you do all that, make sure that you just attain all the knowledge possible from books, because you can definitely, especially like Bibles of animation, right? Like the Animation Survival Kit. Once again, I'll keep on repeating it so you guys can get it. So especially books like that, that every single animator is telling you, get it, then definitely get it, read it, try to understand it, try to really consume it, try to sit with it for a few months, and then move on from that book perhaps to another book. Right? Because if you actually kind of start from the very basics of like what everybody else has read and why everybody else is talking about this thing, then only by you understanding this thing can you start then understanding why the workflow, right? Why this animator specifically has this workflow for games, or this workflow for VFX, or this workflow for film. So you will start understanding things much better when you have a really strong base for your animation. So I hope with all this being said that you get the idea of why books are so important. Now, if you'd like to know which ones I think are the top 5 books for animators, 100% check out my video that I'll link somewhere here in the description about my personal top 5 books that every animator should get in order to improve their skills. And especially when you get started and you don't know anything about animation, get those books to have a really strong base, or at least I think so, right? Other animators most likely will advise you to get other books. If they are books, get them all if you can, because the more books you get, the more knowledge you have. As someone wise once said, there's nothing out there that hasn't been written about before. So there's so much knowledge in books, and you should not dismiss it. Now that we have so much information available to us online, sometimes I feel like people dismiss books because you know you can find it online, you just Google it or YouTube it, and then you have that information. But I think that the problem lies in people getting only a piece of the information instead of getting the whole information. And this is where things start to disconnect, right? So I hope that makes sense to you. I hope this was useful. And if this was useful to you in any ways and you found value, consider subscribing if you haven't so far. And if you have, then drop a comment down below. Let me know which one are your top 5 books for animation that you want to recommend to others. Because if you do that, maybe more people can actually read more books and we can share the knowledge this way. So comment down below. Let's make this a really good thread for people to read, for people to actually find knowledge from. And last but not least, drop a like if you like. And also consider joining my Discord server, because we have lots of knowledge to share there as well. Lots of rigs and animation feedback and much, much more. Link down below as well. That's all I had for you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And until next week, stay well, stay safe. Peace.